to everyone. Good morning. My name is Laurel Malloy. I'm a board member with the Association of Nonprofit Specialists, and we're proud to be collaborating with CauseMatch today on this event. For those of you that don't know Association of Nonprofit Specialists, we're a 501c3 membership organization. We support a diverse community of nonprofit consultants, specialists, and other capacity builders. So we have a broad spectrum, probably a lot of fundraising folks that'll be joining today, but myself, I work in outcome measurement. We've got all kinds of consulting specialists in our network. We aim to strengthen that network and the nonprofit sector as a whole through a wide array of programming and strategic partnerships like the one you're experiencing today. We're really about creating an equitable, just, and vibrant world supported by a vibrant and thriving nonprofit sector. So we're thrilled that you're here. We're excited for you to learn from CauseMatch today. And we are definitely welcoming and encouraging a lot of participation from the group. So as Jeremy said earlier, get those chatting fingers ready. I will now turn it over to Jeremy.
Awesome. Laurel, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here with you and everyone. I'm just going to share my screen now. You can see my presentation. Okay, perfect. And I'm going to move you guys up here to the top of my screen. Okay. We're good to go. My name is Jeremy Stern, and I am the Director of Partnerships at CauseMatch. And I'm excited to share with you about the work that we're doing in CauseMatch in terms of crowdfunding strategic peer-to-peer campaigns. And we're talking specifically, I actually modified the title a little bit. We had it, the title is the 6 drivers of crowdfunding success. I modified it to 5+1 to keep you in suspense for what number 6 is, because it's super powerful. I'll get into CauseMatch in a minute, just to share a bit with you about myself and my background. So I've been at CauseMatch for a year, and CauseMatch is a crowdfunding platform. For the previous 15 years, I worked in nonprofit organizations. I was the executive director of a nonprofit for 9 years. I also worked for several years in full-time nonprofit development for kind of a mid-size nonprofit organizations. And I actually came to CauseMatch because I was a client. As a client, we ran for several years many very effective, successful crowdfunding campaigns. And I decided just over a year ago that I loved working with the CauseMatch team so much, I wanted to join the team. So that's what I did just about a year ago. So in my role, I'm really taking my experience working in nonprofits and nonprofit fundraising specifically and bringing it to the fore with the work that we're doing at CauseMatch. So let me just start off and like I said before, get those fingers ready to respond on the chat. I'd like to get a sense of everyone's background specifically with crowdfunding. If you can tell me who here has been involved in a crowdfunding campaign on any sort of level. And I don't just mean donating, but I mean on some sort of leadership level, right? As a lay leader, a nonprofit consultant, or development professional, you could just put in the chat if you've had any involvement in crowdfunding campaigns. Only as a donor. Okay. Anything else? Has anyone else been involved? I'm going to guess that most of us, if not all of us, have been involved in a campaign as a donor. Birthday Facebook page, right? That's a big piece of crowdfunding. Not so much what we do at CauseMatch, because we're much more about. Well, I don't want to spoil it. You'll find out. Any others? Your involvement in crowdfunding campaigns to date. Have you been involved, especially on the leadership level? Does Giving Tuesday count? If you use a crowdfunding campaign, absolutely. Okay, so I'll take it by the silence that there hasn't been too much done yet in terms of crowdfunding, and so I'm especially excited to introduce you to the world of what we're doing. So with that intro, let's dive into what fundraising is and how it differs from strategic crowdfunding. Okay. Now fundraising, I'm preaching to the choir here, right? And you guys can teach me a thing or two about fundraising. But I want to use this as an analogy to compare it to how crowdfunding works. So in typical fundraising, I like to use the analogy of Lego. right? And imagine that each Lego piece is a donor, right? And in typical fundraising, you have a few Lego pieces. You like to have those really big Lego pieces, those big donors, right? And what you do over the course of the year is start to amass as many pieces of Lego as you possibly can have, right? And by the end of the year, you should hopefully have a huge pile of Lego, right? A huge pile of donors who have all contributed to your cause, to your organization, to the organization that you're consulting for over the course of the year. And the goal as a nonprofit development professional, or as the consultant for those professionals, is to make sure that year in, year out, that pile does not get any smaller, and hopefully it gets bigger, and especially those big pieces, right? Adding some of those big pieces of Lego, again, each piece of Lego representing a donor and the size of their donation. But as we all know, that's not how you play with Lego. Maybe how my kids make a mess on the floor with Lego, right? But it's not how we play with Lego, right? The way we play with Lego is in crowdfunding is we take each piece of Lego, each donor, and we start to construct something out of it. We take each donor and they become a part of something so much larger, that their donation is not just, think about the experience of a donor when they go to a donate page, right? They go to that donate page or they send in a check, and hopefully they'll get an acknowledgement within a short time period, but there's no immediate feedback. They're not able to express in a public way their gratitude to the organization and its leadership for the amazing work that it's doing, right? They don't get any public recognition for the work that they do, and they don't see how their donation contributes to the organization as a whole, contributes to the goals of the organization and what they're trying to accomplish. Whereas in crowdfunding, what we're doing is taking each donation, each donor, each piece of Lego in this analogy, and adding it up and building it until you create a palace, right? You're trying to build something out of all these donations. And so if you have a campaign where your goal is to raise $100,000, right, through the crowdfunding campaign specifically, you have each donor, and now a donor who let's say is given $100, right? Their donation is not just lost to the ether of the internet, but their $100 donation has now helped the organization get towards its goal of $100,000. They've donated specifically to an ambassador or a participant in the crowdfunding campaign. And just to put some skin on the bones for what this looks like, I want to show you an example of a campaign that we recently ran at CauseMatch. And this is a crowdfunding campaign for a summer camp in Wild Rose, Wisconsin. Okay, so this was a camp that had a campaign goal of $260,000, right? And this campaign concluded, I think it was just last week. So it's actually a matching campaign, which means that matching donors match each donation 1-to-1, so that if you donated $100, it appeared on the campaign page as $200. Here you see they thank their matching donors, and now you see the donor panel, right? The leaderboard of all the donors who contributed to the campaign, and you can see that all of these individuals, in contributing to the campaign, they immediately have that gratification of seeing their name up on the donor board, the list of donors. They can say that their donation was through a particular ambassador, express their gratitude in honor of the Lennons and the Robinsons, right? Express their gratitude to the organization. And not only that, but they can see their donation help the organization reach its goal. At CauseMatch, what we are really focused on are giving days, right? Giving days rather than birthday fundraisers or even runs, walks, and rides. Our focus is very much on the fundraising component through a giving day. So to explain a bit about what we do, and then we'll talk about what the drivers are that we've seen in the success of the campaigns that we run. So the way that CauseMatch is perhaps unique from what you might be familiar with in other peer-to-peer platforms or crowdfunding platforms is that we're really doing two things, and we're merging the two. On the one hand, we are a tech company, right? We are a tech company that is taking some of the best tools of the e-commerce world, tools that Amazon and Zappos and Shopify are all utilizing to get you and me to make purchases online, right, to make sure that we actually click and buy now, right? We're taking those tools, which are very powerful, and putting them in the hands of nonprofit organizations to inspire their donors to give. That's on the tech side. I'm not going to focus on the tech side because I'm speaking with nonprofit professionals and consultants. And so I want to speak about the other piece of what we do, which is something that we really merge together with our technology, which is world-class fundraising expertise. What we've done, we've been around for 7 years. We've raised over $400 million with our clients over thousands of campaigns. And in so doing, we've developed a really effective playbook for peer-to-peer campaigns. Right? We've seen what works in terms of crowdfunding strategy and how to engage ambassadors, how to get people to really effectively raise funds for their favorite causes. And so what we do is when we work with a client, we're not just giving them a powerful platform, but we have a whole team of experts that works with the client in coaching them through the campaign, in providing the campaign copy for their campaign as well, with the goal ultimately for the organization to raise more money from more donors, not just to reach their organic reach of donors from their donor pool, but to reach a much broader circle of donors that they otherwise wouldn't be able to connect with. And to give you a sense of what this team looks like, and also how some of you could potentially be involved if you're interested, which is when you're working with CauseMatch, number one, you have a campaign manager, right? You have someone who's involved in the logistics, the coordination, setting up the campaign. Number two is the fundraising coach. And we have both internal coaches and external coaches. We have partner coaches, nonprofit consultants who get involved in our work and coach campaigns for their clients. Number three, we provide all of the copywriting for these campaigns. And number four is our technical support, which is available 24/6. We don't cover all hours on Saturday, but otherwise we're available, and they respond literally within seconds. Their protocols to respond within 2 minutes to any tech support issues that come up, which is really important on the day of a campaign. But generally speaking, it's within 15-20 seconds they'll respond to issues. Why is it so important? Because this is how we've developed this strategy and to identify the drivers of crowdfunding success, right? Because it's a whole team, it's a strategic fundraising team that's working with the client. So let's talk about the 5+1 drivers of crowdfunding success. Number one, and I'll first go through them quickly, and then we'll go through the individual ones. And also, if at any point you have any questions, please feel free to chime in and let me know if I can clarify something. You could just put it in the chat. So number one is the story of the organization, right? What we're looking for in terms of this driver is I'm sorry. We're first going to run through them. Number one is the story. Number two is the need of the campaign. Right? What is the need? What are they trying to raise money for specifically? Number three, the third driver of crowdfunding success is the data hygiene of the organization. Number four is their volunteer army, essentially who will serve as their ambassadors for the campaign. Number five is the leadership of the organization. Number six is the secret sauce that I'm not going to spoil you yet. I'm going to keep you guys all in suspense until we get there. Right, story, need, data hygiene, volunteer army, and leadership, plus the secret sauce. Those are the 5+1 drivers of crowdfunding success. So let's first take a look at the story. What does it mean the story of the organization is an important driver for their crowdfunding success? What we're talking about here is what is the what and the why of the organization. What is the what and the why of the organization? What does that mean, right? Essentially, what we're asking is what drives each member of the organization to get out of bed and show up for work? What drives donors to give on an annual basis, right? The story of the organization, what they are about, really focused on the organization itself. And so the question is it clear, right? Is it compelling, the story of the organization, what they're about and what they're doing? Does it resonate? Does it resonate with donors? Because in the end of the day, you have to remember that the donor is donating, even though there's a campaign about a particular project, issue, need, they're donating to the organization. And so the issue is, what is the story of the organization that the donor is giving to? The next piece is, what is the problem that they are trying to solve, that the organization is trying to solve through their story, right? And so the idea there is, what is the justification essentially for the organization's existence? That's the question of story, right? What is the problem that they are trying to solve as an organization? And so I want to give you two contrasting examples, again, from my own experience working in nonprofit organizations. The first example is an organization that I used to work at. And the story of the organization, the what and why of the organization, is about the founder, who is an innovative and inspiring leader, right? And that worked really well for the organization for decades. But he's now been the inspiring and innovative leader for 40 years, and it's time for him to retire, right? And so, to be quite honest, it's quite a large organization. They don't have a real story to tell for the next generation, right? And those who don't have a relationship with this leader, it doesn't really resonate for them, right? And so when it came to certain crowdfunding campaigns that they did for the broader organization, they did not have a compelling story to tell, and they couldn't explain what the problem is that the organization is trying to solve. But I give you another example. Another organization that I ran, that I worked at, I was in fact the executive director for 9 years. And that's an organization that advocates on behalf of victims of domestic abuse, specifically in the Insular Orthodox Jewish community, based in New York. And so that organization is called ORA. They actually are a CauseMatch client. And here is a screenshot of their recent campaign. They have a very clear story about the what and the why of the organization. Why do they exist? Because there are victims of domestic abuse who need support and need to be advocated for. What is the problem that they are trying to solve, right? You can even see in the headline, the slogan of their campaign: when you need support, a helpline is a lifeline, and they have a helpline for victims of domestic abuse, right? It's a much clearer story, the what and the why of the organization. That's the first piece, the first important driver, powerful driver of a successful crowdfunding campaign. Again, if you have questions as we're going through, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I will address them there. So number one is story. Okay, there we go. Related to story is need. And need is focused more on the need of the specific campaign. It's now drilling into, okay, we get what this organization is about, but what is this campaign about specifically? Right, and so what need is addressing is, what is the need of the campaign? Can it be shared in one sentence in a digital campaign, online campaign? You have 2 seconds to grab someone's attention, right? We have short attention spans, and especially online, we're clicking through and scrolling through all the time. You need to express the need of the campaign very succinctly, very clearly. Can it be shared in one sentence? Is the need actually urgent, or is there a manufactured urgency? And so what do I mean by that? There are some campaigns, and I'll give you an example of a campaign. There were a whole bunch of amazing campaigns for Ukrainian refugees, right? That was an actually urgent need, and people gave to them, right? But in other situations, you have manufactured urgency, right? Where we're having the campaign and we're asking you to donate today. Why are we asking you to donate today? Because we're having a campaign today. See how it's circular there, right? And so that's manufactured urgency, but it works just as well. Maybe not as well, but it works. It also works. And so what you do to create that sense of urgency, you say, today is the campaign for our organization, June 2nd. It's a 24-hour campaign, and we're looking to raise $100,000, $500,000. Now, let me tell you a little secret, which is that when we're working with a client, we're not working with them for 24 hours. We're working with them for about 2 months before those 24 hours. And part of you can walk away with another secret to crowdfunding. Our goal with the client is for them to raise 30%. That's the benchmark. 30% of the campaign goal before the clock starts ticking, so that when the campaign actually starts and they send out their email blast, today's the day, there's already at least 30% in the campaign, in the campaign success so far in the ticker, right? And the idea there is that now when they start sending out their email blasts and phone calls and text messages and things like that, People want to contribute to a winning campaign. If it's only at 2 or 3%, it's like, well, no one's really donating to this, so why should I? But if already there's 30% of the donations in, and there's a donation for $500 and $1,000, wow, this is an organization that's really worthy of our generous support. So that's manufactured urgency, right? Today's the day to give because we're saying today's the day to give. So that's, again, related to the need of the campaign. We're asking you to give today. And so the next point about that is, and this is also really important about the need of the campaign, which is the need cannot be focused on the organization. It needs to be focused on the donor. What do we need from the donor? And this is one of the most mind-blowing, as well as it sounds simple, but oh my goodness, so many organizations where I've seen not do this, is making the donor the hero of the story. And so I'll give you an example of that. We ran a great campaign with this organization called Renewal. What does Renewal do? Renewal facilitates altruistic kidney donations. They facilitate something like 25% of altruistic kidney donations in the United States every year. Amazing, amazing work. And so when we sat with Renewal before their campaign, and again, as I mentioned before, we provide both the strategic fundraising coaching and the copywriting, right? Because the copywriting is such an integral piece of all of this, their message and the way they express their need in their story. And so we said to them, Renewal, you facilitate altruistic kidney donations, right? Who are your heroes? So you can put in the chat, who are the heroes of Renewal, right? They help people give kidneys to others in need. Who are the heroes of Renewal? Put it in the chat. Okay, I'm getting a direct message, not one to everyone. The kidney donors, right? The kidney donors are the heroes of Renewal. Obviously, right? These are people who are giving up an organ to save the life of someone they've never met before, right? Obviously, those are the heroes of the story. What we said to Renewal is, for your campaign, for 24 hours or 36 hours, your heroes are your $10 donors. You need to make the campaign not about Renewal and the life-saving work that you're doing, but rather about the donor. Make the donor the hero of the story. And so take a look at the campaign slogan, right? My father is dying of kidney failure. With one click, you can save his life, right? You, as the $10 donor or $100 donor or $1,000 donor, you are going to save their life. Right? It's making the donor the hero of the story. And that's a part of the need in the way that you express the need. Now, if you think that organizations don't make mistakes about this all the time, I'll give you an example, an unfortunate example of an organization that I myself support, based in New York. You may be familiar with it. I'm not going to say its name, but if you recognize its branding, you'll know what organization it is. And they address issues of poverty. They have soup kitchens and all sorts of things like that, addressing poverty in New York. And let me show you a Facebook ad that I get all the time from this organization. Okay, it's right here. The ad is as follows. Since the pandemic started, our organization's food programs have helped feed over 305,000 New Yorkers and counting. A third of them are children. Please help us feed a child today. What did they do wrong? How else should they have written this, right? Not please help us, the organization, feed a child today. How would you recommend? Put it in the chat, please. How would you recommend instead that they rewrite this to make the donor the hero of the story? So remove, oh, excellent. You know what, Laura, I love your answer. Feed a child today. Yeah, exactly, right? And there's another point from Judy, which I can address later. But that's exactly right. It's not about the organization. How much more powerful would this message be if it was, please feed a child today, or click here to feed a hungry child, right? Think about the impact of that. I can feed a hungry child just by clicking here, right? And through the organization, we're going to do that amazing work. But that's the idea. That's making the donor the hero of the story. So expressing that need, the message of the campaign in a compelling way is so important. Okay. moving on to driver number 3, which is data hygiene. This is actually kind of the easiest one to explain because we've all seen this, we all know it, right? Which is as follows. How clean is the donor data set, right? And essentially, the question is, can you approximate the number of donors annually, right? Some organizations, as you all know, don't know how many donors they have annually, how much they've raised or anything along those lines. And thirdly, follow-up information with the donors. What is the current level of activity with the donors, right? How much have you followed up with them? These are all really important questions. This is the data hygiene, because when you're going to have your call center on your giving day, the day of your campaign, you need to have clean data sets. And I'll give you an example of, this was a campaign that when I was a CauseMatch client, I ran when I was the development director of this institution. It's a women's seminary in Jerusalem that's been around for 30 years. And they had amazing data, right? Amazing data. They had the phone numbers and email addresses of all of their alumni from the previous 30 years, right? Well, they didn't have email addresses in the 1980s or 90s, but you get the point. And so during the campaign itself, we had the current students going through lists of thousands of alumni and calling them up and asking them for their support. Data hygiene is pretty clear, but it makes a big difference in terms of the success from the campaign to create that core for the campaign, right? For the organization to effectively reach its core group of donors before expanding beyond that and reaching the whole circle of donors that the ambassadors are going to be able to reach that the organization didn't have access to previously. Number 4 is the volunteer army. And I'll explain what this means. Who are your ambassadors for your campaign? Who are the people who are going to take on personal fundraising goals? And the groups of people that we look to for ambassadors, and I'm sure you could add others to this group, talking about donors, volunteers, staff, board members, beneficiaries, alumni, right? These are the people that you want to reach out to serve as ambassadors of the organization. How big is that potential pool? And again, what is the relationship? How engaged are they with the organization? Is it someone who left the doors of your institution 20 years ago and they haven't heard from you since? Or they get frequent updates from you and they joined, a virtual event or a wine and cheese event or whatever it is, right? How engaged are they? And number 3, can you create a sense of community among them? And I want to give you an example of a beautiful organization, which is Jerusalem-based. Our main office is in Jerusalem. We have offices in India and the United States as well, and partners throughout the world. So a lot of our organizations are Israel-based. So I have a bunch of examples for you from them. But this one's a really beautiful campaign, and it was called FeelBet. Okay, what is FeelBet? FeelBet is this artist colony in Jerusalem that brings together Jews and Arabs through art, right? And as you see, impact, art, and diversity are the hallmarks of what FeelBet is really all about. And I'll show you what their campaign page looks like, right? This was a beautiful campaign. They were building a new building for FeelBet. They're basically out of like a shack previously. And here they had never raised anything before. Literally, this is volunteer run entirely. They got 1,600 donors to their campaign, right? They had 72 teams. Because what they did is they had a whole volunteer army, right? They had all of these artists who were really passionate and engaged with the work that FeelBet is doing, and each one took on a personal fundraising goal. And not only that, they had communities of artists. So they had the painters and the photographers and the videographers, and they had communities together, all raising money in support of this organization, which means so much to them. That's the volunteer army. I'll add as well, alumni of organizations can be great volunteers, right? Again, if they are engaged, that's the question, right? Are they engaged with the institution and have that connection and would want to contribute to its continued success? That's the volunteer army. Number 5 is leadership. And I know you've all seen this one. because these are obviously issues that are specific to crowdfunding, but relevant for nonprofit governance in general and fundraising in general. So the leadership of the organization, the leadership of the campaign, are they committed to the campaign? Will they lead by example? Will the executive director and the chair of the board take out personal fundraising pages or not? If they will, right, then they're leading by example. If not, then why should I, Joe Schmo, a volunteer, raise for this organization if the CEO isn't raising for the organization, right? That's leading by example. Makes a big difference, right? And not only that, and those of you who are consultants know this, that when you're working with a client, it's not just consulting on the project, but it's coaching the individual, it's coaching the client, right? And working with the individuals. So you have questions of, I want to skip to that, is the leadership coachable, right? Are they willing to learn, right? Do they have courage, humility, discipline to learn this new skill of strategic crowdfunding? Additionally, internal communications, right? The leadership of the organization as a whole. Is it dysfunctional, right? If you share something with the director of communications, is that going to be shared with the director of development? You know, things like that, again, make a big difference in terms of the success of the campaign. So that's the point of leadership. And so, do I have an example of that? Oh, I do have an example of leadership. And so the example that I want to give, again, this is an extreme example, okay? But you'll understand kind of where we're going with this. An example of leadership. Again, an organization that we worked with in Israel. It is one of the largest Hasidic organizations in Israel. I guess I could say this. He's talking about the John Hagee of the ultra-Orthodox world, okay? And they had a campaign, right? And it was a campaign to build a new edifice for their international headquarters in Jerusalem, okay? They raised $14 million, right? With thousands upon, I think 7,000 ambassadors and things like that. Why? Because the rabbi, the head of the organization, when he says jump, all of his followers say how high, right? He was, as you see, literally the face of the campaign, right? And again, that's an example. What we say is that the problem with this campaign is that instead of setting a goal of $14 million, he should have said $50 million, because they would have raised $50 million, because he told them to raise it, so they're going to raise it, right? They were so driven by that leadership. And so, but this is true not just for Hasidic masters and heads of religious sects, but it's relevant for all campaigns and all organizations. What is the leadership like? And so now we get to number 6, the 5+1. If you can put in the chat, what's your guess of what is the 6th driver of crowdfunding success? Again, we talked about story, need, data hygiene, volunteer army, and leadership. What's number 6? What do you think? You can put it in the chat. Timing. Oh, that's a good one. Guess we're gonna have to do 5+2. Any others? What do you think is the 6th driver of crowdfunding success? Any other critical elements that you see would make a big difference in a crowdfunding campaign? Okay, we'll go to the next slide and I'll spoil it for you. Number 6 is passion. Tech. Oh, that's a good guess. I guess with CauseMatch, we're already based on a powerful tech platform, so it's not a secret for us. But thank you, Judy. Passion, right? You can have an organization that has no data, right? That has poor leadership, right? A small group of volunteers where they don't have a big story and their need is not something that's universal. But if you have a passionate group of individuals who are going to drive it and push the campaign, it could take it very far. And I'm going to share from personal experience, which is the campaign that we ran for my synagogue. I'll tell you a bit about my synagogue, right? My synagogue, we've been around, we were incorporated about 10 years ago. And for 10 years, we were trying to raise money and it really wasn't working. And, you know, a few $1,000s here, a few $1,000s there. And we've been in a dilapidated, rundown shack is where we've been congregating on Saturday. And when I joined CauseMatch, when I joined the team a year ago, I said, guys, we've got to do a CauseMatch campaign. We've got to do a CauseMatch campaign. And they said, what difference is it going to make, right? We raised just a few $1,000s now. We need to raise $300,000 to make this campaign, make this building happen. Because we have some major gifts, but we needed another $300,000. How are we going to raise that? And so this was a screenshot from my synagogue's campaign. We raised over $300,000 through the campaign. 30 families, no donor list. We don't have a rabbi, okay? So there's no like leadership level. Our board isn't even so functional, I'll be quite honest with you, right? But we had 30 passionate families who were all in and fully committed to the campaign. We had 1,000 donors to this campaign. 1,000 donors to a synagogue of 30 families, right? Why? Because we were all driving it. Each family got literally dozens of people to contribute to the campaign, because even people who had never stepped foot in our synagogue, right? They're never going to be in our community or anything like that, right? But they were giving because it was important to us, right? And we were reaching out to them and we were passionate and we were excited about the campaign. And we knew if this campaign doesn't succeed, we will continue being in that dilapidated shack, and it's time for us to come home, right? That was the theme of the campaign. So passion is the sixth driver, which is above and beyond everything else. And we see this not just in my synagogue, but in so many other campaigns. I've shared with you campaigns that I've been personally involved in. Most of them have been personally involved in to one degree or another, but not the Hasidic rabbi campaign, but the others I've been involved in one degree or another. And passion is something which can what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word right now, but if you're lacking in any of the other elements, passion can take over for that and supply that extra needed energy for the campaign. Okay, so these are the 5+1 drivers of crowdfunding success: story, need, data hygiene, volunteer army, leadership, and passion. So we have a few minutes left, and I want to save time for questions as well. But I will say that I would love to connect with any of you. Again, I'm most active on LinkedIn, so you can find me there and my contact details there. Otherwise, it's jeremy@causematch.com. And I want to share with you a little bit in the time that we have left, and you can start also thinking about your questions if you want to put them in the chat, which is about our partners network. So I shared before that that coaching is a big part of what we do, and we have both internal coaches as well as partner coaches. Partner coaches are nonprofit consultants who get involved in our coaching work. We train them in our strategic peer-to-peer approach to crowdfunding, and then they can coach campaigns for their clients, and we refer clients to our partner coaches all the time as well. So the idea of our partner coaches is that's strange. How did that red mark get there? Okay, I don't know what happened there. So the idea of partner coaches is essentially we have a revenue share model, which rather than paying our coaches internally, we have a revenue share model with our partner coaches, and they get a portion, significant portion of CauseMatch's revenue for getting involved in our campaigns. So if any of you are interested in becoming trained in our approach, becoming a CauseMatch partner coach, and adding this as another tool in your toolbox to provide to your clients, I'd be more than happy to have that discussion with you. We can have a virtual coffee and see if it's the right fit for you. So I'll take your questions, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback.
Jeremy, there was a question earlier about whether recording in the slide deck would be available. I knew the recording would be, but I didn't know.
Yeah, more than happy to share the slide deck. Absolutely.
Okay. Great, yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Other questions about now that you've had some food for thought, questions about crowdfunding and what makes it most effective. I'll share that the approach that we've been doing at CauseMatch And like I said, our main office is in Jerusalem. And to be honest, our primary reach has been in the Israeli community and the Jewish community. And I'll tell you a little bit of a story. I was at the peer-to-peer conference. The peer-to-peer forum has an annual conference, which I went to in February. And I went to this conference thinking CauseMatch is a peer-to-peer platform. This is going to be, you know, my homies, right? These are going to be people who like understand the work that I do, and I'll be able to connect with. And they'll understand our approach, right? And so I went to the conference, and I'm like, I'm sure everyone knows what we, you know, not necessarily know about CauseMatch, but is familiar with this strategic approach to crowdfunding. And not at all, right? What I learned is that in the US, and I think really outside of the Jewish community in particular, crowdfunding is really limited. As some people mentioned, they've done it through Facebook fundraisers, right? Or it's runs, walks, rides, right? Where I'm running a 5K, and so will you support me in supporting the organization that I'm running for my 5K? But crowdfunding really hasn't been focused on the giving day model all that much, and especially the strategic approach of engaging ambassadors. We have so much that we do to engage ambassadors, to get them to sign up, to take on personal fundraising goals, to be a part of something so much bigger. And so there's a tremendous opportunity to bring this to a broader market and enable organizations really to scale up their fundraising success. Okay, so there's some questions. Thank you. Lauren, you asked, are there certain sizes of campaigns that have been most effective in crowdfunding? Great question. Really good question. So I think crowdfunding can be effective for a wide range of organizations and sizes. At CauseMatch, we generally work with clients who are seeking to raise $25,000 or more. Just in terms of our pricing model and stuff like that, it makes more sense to go with a free platform, which, I'll be honest, doesn't have the same tools and certainly does not have the strategic approach that we provide in the coaching and consulting and copywriting that we provide for campaigns that are looking to raise less than $25,000. But $25,000 and up are the campaigns that we're usually working with. And especially for coaching, we actually offer two types of campaigns. What we call a tech-only campaign, where they just get our platform, and then a full-service campaign where they have the strategic coaching services. So strategic coaching services usually starts a campaign seeking to raise $100,000 or more. So that's generally like the type of size of campaign that we're looking at. Our experience, this is across the thousands of campaigns that we've run, is when organizations switch to CauseMatch, they literally 6 times more by having the right tools and the right strategy, because that's what makes all the difference, right? For the success of crowdfunding. So I just say that even if an organization has only raised, I don't know, $15,000 in the past, doesn't mean they can't raise $100,000 this year in their crowdfunding campaign. So Larry asks, how do you and the CauseMatch team get paid? A flat fee before the campaign begins, or a percentage of the funds raised, or a bit of both? Great question. Let me just take a sip of water. So it's a little bit of both. What we do is the industry standard used to be a straight percentage, right? And you can see this on other platforms that are still kind of like, you know, using these standards of a 5% commission for on funds raised for campaigns that are tech only, right, that are just the platform, and an 8% commission for campaigns that include strategic services. What we moved to about over a year ago was a SaaS model, software as a service, which means that we want our organizations to see crowdfunding campaigns not just as a one-time thing, not as a flash in a pan, but build it in to their fundraising strategy. And so what we do is they purchase an annual license to utilize CauseMatch, and so they can do 1 or more campaigns over the course of the year. They can utilize us for donation pages and things like that. So there's a flat license, depending, I'll give you the percentages and the amounts, depending on the size, the technical specifications that the organization needs. The setup fee, the SaaS license, will be between $1,200 and $2,400. And then there is a percentage that we take, a commission, and that commission ranges, again, depending on the type of campaign, the services that are involved, anywhere from 2.8 to 6.8%. So it's a flat fee, as kind of like an annual setup fee, and then a commission on the funds raised through the campaign. Great question. Other questions? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I had a question, and you sort of got at it in response to Laura's, but was wondering, is crowdfunding like, it seems like a sort of an equalizer for smaller nonprofits where they don't have a huge department that they can, do a lot of other kind of fundraising. Is there a certain size organization that this works? I know you said sort of it works for anyone, but if you could speak to how this would work for a smaller organization.
Yeah, really great question. Smaller organizations are the best, right? Because sometimes with larger organizations, just like, oh, it's bureaucracy and this is something new and, it needs to go through 5 different layers of, departments for things to get approved, and getting everyone on board is a challenge. Small organizations are great for this. The real question of the organization is not its size, but what is its reach of ambassadors, right? Who are the volunteers who will take on personal fundraising goals? So you can have an organization with 1 full-time person or no full-time people, right? It's just volunteer run. But if you have an army of ambassadors, whether it's 10 or 100, right, or 1,000, who are willing to take on personal fundraising goals because they believe in the mission of the organization, the story of the organization, the need of the campaign, and all of that, that's really the question. It's less about the size of the organization and more about who will serve as the ambassadors for the campaign. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Laurel, again. Really appreciate you setting this up. Oh, did I understand correctly? Let's talk about yes, essentially what you wrote in there, Larry, is almost right, a commission of 2 to 6.8. Yeah, 1,200, 2,400 setup fee and a commission of 2 to 6.8, depending on the size of the campaign and the services that are involved. Yeah. And please feel free to reach out if you have any other questions.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe you want to throw your email in the chat, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah,
that would be great. And as you do that, I'll just close out by thanking you so much for sharing your wisdom. As I said at the beginning, Nonprofit Specialists is a network of consultants and other specialists. CauseMatch is one of our members. If you're not a member yet and you're interested in exploring what that would look like, encourage you to check out our website. As you see, I just dropped in the chat, we have several more events coming up later this month, including our first in-person outdoor networking event in New York City in over about 3 years. So if you're in the area and like to see some folks, we'd love to see you. We're always just looking for other ideas, so welcome that feedback as well. Jeremy, I see people have been letting me know how helpful this was during the session. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you everyone for joining. Keep an eye out for that follow-up email. We will be sharing the recording and some additional resources with you then.
Thank you all. Take care.